We'll end this chapter with a couple of exercises. In this first exercise, we're going to write a couple of simple functions just to stretch our function writing abilities a little bit. And then in the second exercise, we'll modify the calculator program we've worked on earlier to include functions in how we call the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division operations. So we'll begin with the first function in this little set of exercises. What I want to do for this function is determine the quality points from a letter grade. If you're not familiar with the concept of quality points, a letter grade has a certain number of quality points attached to it. An A has 4 quality points, a B has 3 quality points, a C has 2 quality points, a D has 1 quality point, and an F has 0 quality points. And then to determine someone's GPA, you take the total number of quality points for each grade, multiplied by the number of hours for that grade, add that all together, and then divide by the total number of hours that they're taking. And that gives you a student's GPA either overall or for a particular semester. So to write a function to determine quality points from a letter grade, first thing we have to do is determine the return type of the function, which is int for 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0. Give the function a name, we'll call it quality points. And then its parameter will be a char letter grade, whatever the letter grade is we're trying to determine the quality points for. We'll need a variable to store the number of quality points assigned to a letter grade before we return it, and then all we need is a series of if-else-if statements, looking at the letter grade to see what it is, and then assigning the necessary quality points. So we assign 4 quality points for an A. If the letter grade is a B, then we assign 3 quality points. If the letter grade is a C, we assign 2 quality points. If it's a D, we assign 1. We'll just use an else for the last quality point determination, assuming that it's not an A, B, C, or D, it must be an F. And so we'll assign 0 quality points for that. So we'll simply return that value as the return value of the whole function. So now that we've written the function, let's write a short program to test it. So we'll create a variable for the grade, char grade. We'll prompt the user to enter the letter grade. Get that from the user, and then display the number of quality points to the user. Drop down to the next line, and we'll call the function right here with the grade. Put a period at the end and an indel. Now let's build and run the program and see what we get. We'll try it with all the letter grades. So we'll do A first, and A earns 4. Let's add a little more to our output. Quality points. This makes it a little bit easier to follow the output. There we go. Let's build and run again. This time we'll try it with B. Oh, and of course we made a little mistake there. Let's put a space before the Q in quality. Now let's build and run again. Do it with the C. The C earns 2 quality points, that's right. Try it again with the D. The D earns 1 quality points. 1 quality point, but we won't niggle over that. And then finally F, and that's all correct. So that's our first example of a practical function. Let's build another one. This time what I'd like to do is work with strings rather than numbers. We work with numbers all the time, but strings are also quite interesting. What I want to do is write a function that, given a person's full name, will return the initials of that name. So we're going to start by determining the return data type of that function. We're working with strings, so it's going to be a string also. Then we need a name. We'll call it getInitials. Since that's what we're trying to do, we're trying to get initials from a name. Then we need parameters. We need a first name, which is a string, a middle name, which is also a string, and a last name, which is a string. Open the function body. We'll need some variables to store our results as we get them, so we'll create some new variables. It would have been possible to do this without what I'll call intermediate or temporary variables, but to make the program a little bit more understandable to the new programmer, I'll use these variables to store the results. So the way we get an initial is by calling a string function from a string variable. So first is a string variable, a parameter, but it's also a variable. The function we want to call is a function called substring. Substring allows us to pull part of a string out of a complete string. The arguments to the substring function are the beginning position you want to pull from and the number of characters you want to pull. So we want to return one character at the first position, which is actually position 0. We start counting positions in a string at 0. So first.substring, which we write substr 0, 1, will pull one character from the first position of the string. So we'll do the same thing for middle init. Zero, 1, and the same thing for last init. Substring 0, 1. Then we'll return those three initials as one string when use the plus sign as a concatenation operator, which is how it is used when you're working with strings. And that should be it. So we close off the function body. Now we're ready to test it, so we need to comment out the code we wrote to test the quality points function. So we'll put an open comment there and a closed comment right there. Now we're ready to test, so we'll create some variables, like so. We'll prompt the user to enter their first name. I started to use cin, but we better use getLine just to be on the safe side. Then your middle name. And finally, your last name. Now we can test this function to see if it works, and we'll put that in our cout statement. So we'll write cout, your initials are. Then we'll drop down to the next line to make sure we have room. Call the function with our first name, middle name, and last name. Then drop down to the next line and do an indel right there. And that should be enough. Let's build and run the program. We'll try it with my name first. Michael Mason McMillan. 3 M's. Very good. Try it with a different length of a name to see if that works too. And there we go. So here are two practical functions that demonstrate both how functions are written and how they're called. And I've mentioned this before, but I can't overemphasize the point that learning how to write functions is crucial to your education as a computer programmer. Functions provide all sorts of advantages to programs, and you should use every opportunity you can to use functions in your programs. In the next exercise, we're going to look at how we can take the calculator program and turn that program into a function, and then in our main program, call that function as the way to calculate an expression.